Hello, everybody, and welcome to Right Here, Right Now, live Buffalo football talk presented by Forefathers Organics. I'm your host, Alex Brasky, here for the Batavia Daily and Livingston County News. Each week, we'll discuss Buffalo's favorite football team, along with all the comings and goings from Orchard Park, thanks to our friends at Forefathers Organics in Dansville.
Unlock the power of nature with Forefathers Organics, your premium CBD store. We offer the highest quality CBD and hemp products to liberate your mind, body, and soul, helping you live happy and free. Our mission is driven by excellence and transparency, using cutting-edge scientific methods to combat stress and target issues at their source. From potent ingestible CBD to soothing topicals, all our products are USDA certified organic. Discover all natural wellness from farm to table. Visit forefathersorganics.com for more information.
All right, it's Chiefs week officially as we put the divisional round in the rear view mirror and we look ahead to this AFC Championship game, and what a titanic matchup it is between the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs, the top two seeds in the AFC. A rematch from week 11, a game won by the Bills. We'll see how things work out this time around. Before we dig in briefly to the matchup at the end of a short podcast, I'd like to first go over the injury updates stemming from today's practice. The media did not watch today's session at One Bills Drive inside the field house. The Bills going through a walkthrough, and that's been a common theme over the past several weeks. Before the regular season concluded. And now that the postseason has begun, I think at this point of the season, it's more about mental reps and the light physical reps rather than banging bodies throughout the course of a practice, risking injury. Players are pretty worn out at this time of the season, and they're pretty well accustomed to the physicality it takes to perform on game day. So I'm not so sure that that's as big of a focus this time of year, and that usually leads to some increased walkthroughs toward the end of the season and now in the postseason. And that's what you saw from the Bills today, although the media didn't get a chance to watch. We did get a chance to chat with a few players after practice, a little bit more on that later. But before we get there, let's talk about the injury updates from today's practice. A few concerning updates after the conclusion of the divisional round win over the Baltimore Ravens. Learning that Taylor Rapp, obviously during the game, was carted off, unable to return in that contest. And then on Monday, we learned that Christian Benford had entered the concussion protocol, and Matt Milano was dealing with something. It was somewhat of a mystery on Monday, but we got a little bit of clarification on Wednesday when Sean McDermott revealed that Milano's ailment is hamstring soreness. He went short of calling it an injury, deeming it hamstring soreness. I think that's good news for the Bills linebacker. A hamstring injury, typically when you get into the grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, whatever grades they are. I'm no thigh doctor or banged up Bills to give him an expert opinion on the grades of a hamstring injury. But for McDermott to deem it hamstring soreness was certainly an encouraging sign for Milano. And if you look back after game day this past Sunday against the Baltimore Ravens, I know that there was the photo circulating throughout social media of Milano in the locker room with his teammates after the game in relatively good spirits. So I'm not so sure there's much to be concerned with there. I guess we'll find out plenty more tomorrow, Thursday, the Bills' first practice in view of the media, and it'll be a bit more of a physically demanding practice than today's walkthrough. So we'll see if Milano was limited as he was today on Wednesday during that Bills walkthrough. But like I said, at this point, I don't think there's much to be concerned about. I think it's almost for sure that he's trending toward playing come this time of the season. And going through what Milano has gone through in terms of the significant injuries that have forced him off the field this season, last season, I think he'll do whatever he can to push through a soft tissue injury and find his way on the field come Sunday against the Kansas City Chiefs. And boy, the Bills are going to need all hands on deck against this talented Kansas City offense. And if you look at the way that Matt Milano has been playing in recent weeks, he's really upped his game after somewhat of a slow start to the season, and expectedly so, as he was coming back from such a significant injury too, really, for that matter. So good to see Milano in limited fashion, and I don't think there's any worries there. If you don't see Milano, you'll obviously see more Dorian Williams. You did see more of him against the Baltimore Ravens. The Bills playing base defense about 40% of the time, which puts 3 linebackers on the field. I'm not so sure you'll see them do that as much in terms of their base defense usage against the Kansas City Chiefs, although the Chiefs do have a strong running game, a two-headed attack with Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt. I'm not so sure you have to account for them as much as you did Derrick Henry. So I think the chance that you see Williams on an extended basis, I think, is if Milano's unable to go, or if he suits up and starts the game and then deals with some lingering soreness as the game progresses. Elsewhere in the linebacker room, the Bills also initiated Balen Spector's 21-day practice window to return from IR. So if they do elect to do that, they can at this point, as he's been dealing with a calf injury off and on throughout the course of the season. He's been on injured reserve since, I believe, December 24th. So he's now eligible to return from IR. That might be another card that the Bills play if Milano's not able to go in this one. And Spector's been decent when he's on the field. So if you get a healthy Balen Spector for a full game alongside Dorian Williams and Terrell Bernard, Spector really in that depth role, I think that's much, much better than you fared last season when you were pulling A.J. Klein off the couch against the Kansas City Chiefs. So all in all, I think positive news on the linebacker front. At this point, I don't think there's any reason to be worried about Matt Milano. Moving on to Christian Benford, I think there's minor concern here just due to the nature of the injury, it being a concussion. We did see Ray Davis last week return to practice pretty quickly. I think he practiced all week in limited fashion, went through that concussion protocol, and I was kind of doubting his chances to play just due to the nature of the injury and the way that the Bills have treated concussions over the years. But at the running back position, if he were able to progress through the concussion protocol and find his way onto the field during a playoff game, I don't see any reason why Christian Benford wouldn't be able to. But like I said, due to the nature of the injury, due to him being limited during today's walkthrough, which is an estimation of a player's participation in a typical practice, I think there's minor room for concern there with Christian Benford. If you don't see Benford in this game, obviously the first option would be a Kaiir Elam. Mixed results from him throughout the course of his career, and I think really disappointing results from Benford throughout the course of this season. I think that would be a really, really big loss. I think that goes without saying if you're not to have Christian Benford, who really played at an all-pro level this season, didn't earn the all-pro honors, but was certainly putting himself in position with the way that he performed leading into that all-pro vote. Along with Kaiir Elam, you might see a little bit of Marcus Ingram mixed in a bit more if Benford is to miss this game. But I don't think there's much concern on either Milano or Benford's part, particularly with Benford. I don't think there's really, or particularly with Milano, I don't really think there's any concern. Benford, maybe a touch of concern if he can work his way through that concussion protocol. As far as Taylor Rapp, I think there's significant reason for concern here. He was carted off the field due to that hip injury against the Baltimore Ravens after appearing in the blue medical tent, and he did not practice today at One Bills Drive, the first practice that the media was able to talk to players after. We didn't get to watch the practice, but Rapp not even able to participate during a walkthrough, so certainly some significant concern there. Rapp's been a key piece to this Bills defense throughout the course of the season. Entering the year, there was so much changeover at the safety position. You lose 2 veterans, Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer. Nobody knew what to expect from Rapp this year, but his ability to kind of lock down that position and give you solid production both in pass coverage and against the run, that physical play that he's known for. He's been battling a few injuries off and on throughout the course of the season. I think he'll do whatever he can, like I said, with Milano to suit up in this one. But I think there's significant room or significant concern and definitely room for concern in terms of Taylor Rapp's status leading into this game against the Kansas City Chiefs. You saw Cole Bishop come in for Taylor Rapp this past week against the Baltimore Ravens. Fared pretty well. I think there were a few slip-ups, as is to be expected with a rookie, but I think Bishop has gotten better and better as the season has gone along, and I think right now, I think he's capable of giving you a solid game against the Kansas City Chiefs. You're going to need it if Taylor Rapp is going to miss this game, going up against the likes of Travis Kelce, the two running backs, as I mentioned, and much more that the Chiefs have to offer on that offense. So not much concern with Milano, minor concern with Benford, significant concern for Taylor Rapp at this point, from my perspective anyway, from the untrained eye, and we haven't really seen these players on the practice field. We'll get to do that tomorrow in Orchard Park. On the other side of the coin, the Chiefs are just about as healthy as a horse entering this game. They've had every player participate in practice to begin the week, and they just got cornerback Jalen Watson back this past week against the Houston Texans. He had missed much of the season. He was placed on IR. It was thought that he would miss the entirety of the season, but returned last week, played the majority of the snaps, and he's really been an underrated player for this secondary. Trent McDuffie is the star player in the secondary for the Chiefs, but getting Jalen Watson back will be a big deal for Kansas City, limiting the Bills' everybody eats mentality in that wide receiver core. We didn't see much from the Bills' wide receivers against the Baltimore Ravens. Khalil Shakir, really the only one to eat it all in that game, and it might be even more difficult for that group of receivers in this game with Trent McDuffie, as I mentioned, and Jalen Watson in his second game back from injury. Thoughts from the locker room today. A funny one. Josh Allen was asked about the potential lateral to James Cook near the goal line against the Baltimore Ravens, and he was asked if there was any thought that crossed his mind of lateraling it to James Cook in that situation. And at first, he gave a little bit of a smirk and immediately answered shortly, no. But then he went on to elaborate and said, yeah, he thought about it. And the good angel on his shoulder rather than the devil on his shoulder ended up winning that debate. And he made the safe play, lived to fight another day, and it proved to be the winning play for the Bills as they came away with a victory over the Baltimore Ravens. That was a funny moment, something that I'm sure a lot of you have seen on social media. If you haven't, give it a look. It's just a great sense of humor that Josh Allen has, and it also points to how loose this team is in this moment, able to look back on a moment like that and joke about it in front of the media as well. Allen also discussed, I believe it was Allen, discussed how Bills Mafia has really stepped to the table and once again raising money for an opposing player's charity. This time it's Mark Andrews, who obviously dropped the 2-point conversion attempt by the Ravens that would have tied the game in the divisional round, and plenty of ire being directed Andrews' way after that game by Ravens fans and a lot of criticism from the national media. It was an easy catch to make, so I can understand Ravens fans being upset, but as is typically the case in sports dissatisfaction, it tends to go over the line. I think it did in this case with Andrews. You saw some encouragement from Lamar Jackson on the sideline during the game and in the locker room post-game, and some encouragement from Bills Mafia throughout the week, donating over $75,000 to Mark Andrews' charity of choice. I know that he is a diabetic, also raises money for other causes as well. I don't want to get it incorrect, but good on Bills Mafia for once again ponying up, donating to Mark Andrews' cause, and showing why Bills Mafia is the best fan base, not only in the NFL, but the entire world. Amari Cooper, a very enlightening conversation with Cooper today after practice. You don't hear a lot from Cooper throughout the course of the season in terms of how often he's made available to the media and just how much he has to say when he is made available to the media. But he really elaborated plenty today and went on for, I believe, over 5 minutes with the media, maybe even longer, giving, like I said, extended responses on plenty of good questions from some of my colleagues there at One Bills Drive. And I thought the one that stood out with me the most was how a lot of people have been talking about, a lot of Bills fans anyway, and the national media have been discussing the lack of involvement for Amari Cooper within the Bills offense really throughout the course of the season. He's had his moments, but has not been involved perhaps as much as many people would have thought. And during the playoff game against the Ravens last week, only one target, no catches for Cooper. And you think a player of his stature would be upset with a lack of involvement in a game as significant as that, wanting to leave his stamp on the game, wanting to make an impact for his team, put his name in the stat book, this, that, and the other thing. But Cooper didn't seem to be concerned with that at all. He just seems to be concerned about one thing, and that's winning. And the quote that stuck with me the most, this was on another question. He was asked what the commonalities were between the championship teams he's been a part of. He has not been a part of a championship team in the NFL, but he has been in college and in high school, I believe he said. And what he said was, quote, "The team doesn't really need you. You have so many players doing their job that they can get the job done without you," end quote. And that really just spells it out what Amari Cooper is all about. The ultimate team player. He has been throughout the course of the season. You don't hear a peep from him. We've seen star receivers come through Buffalo in the past and really make it all about them. Cooper has made it all about team, and you can't give about the team, and you can't give him enough credit for that. Kudos to Amari Cooper, and kudos to that response, and kudos to the conversation as well. He was also very, I thought he was vulnerable during the course of the conversation, and he mentioned how getting to the Super Bowl would mean so much to him. He said, when you get this far, you can taste it. This is what you dream of, and it feels like he's been preparing for this moment his entire life. So it certainly was good to hear from Amari Cooper today, and I think the Bills could use a big game from Cooper. I'm not sure if you'll see that, like I said, with Trent McDuffie and getting Jalen Watson back and a few talented players in the secondary. You have Justin Reed back there at the back end. So I think this is a tough Chiefs secondary. They were recently ranked as a top 10 unit by some ranking. I'm sorry that I'm unable to cite the website or author of the rankings, but certainly a top 10 unit in my eyes as well. It might be tough for Cooper to get off, but hey, then again, great players make great moments happen, and we could see that from Cooper this weekend. One more thought from the locker room, I believe I had here. Yes, Von Miller. We talked with him as well today. He could really put himself into the upper echelon of competitors in NFL history, making the Super Bowl with his third team if the Bills are able to punch their ticket with a win over the Chiefs this weekend. And he was really expressive, as Von Miller typically is, during his media availability Wednesday after practice, and really just saying how much he believes Bills Mafia deserves a trip to the Super Bowl. And he's been around. This is his third team, and he's seen a lot in this league and been around a number of years. And he said there's a lot of fan bases that deserve it, but just to see what he's seen firsthand, to watch what Bills Mafia has gone through, they haven't been to the big game in quite some time. And he really said that he wants to be a part of bringing the Bills back to the promised land in a few weeks. And quite honestly, I can say that firsthand in terms of the Bills deserving it. I grew up as a diehard fan. I was a season ticket holder in the 300 level for a number of years. And I was at the game where the Bills lost to the Steelers backups to thwart their playoff chances and thwart their chances of ending the drought all those years ago. I was in the stands in the 300 level for the snow game against the Indianapolis Colts. So I've been through the trials and tribulations with Bills Mafia. I've been at the tailgate lots at 7 a.m. for a primetime game. So I've seen how much it means to these people, not only the people of Buffalo, but Bills supporters all around the world. This has really become a worldwide fan base. You see UK Bills backers. You see Bills backers from just all over the world. You see it really all over the country and in seemingly every major city, but you also see it from all over the world. Bills backers of Italy, Forza Buffalo. You always see those posts on Twitter. So there's plenty of support to go around. I'm surprised you haven't seen Bills backers of Timbuktu crop up here over the past few years, but I just can't say enough how much that this city deserves it. At least a Super Bowl berth. And I think that would signify progress for this franchise. I think anything less, you're kind of stagnant. I think after that win against the Baltimore Ravens, expectations have kind of reset now. I think going into that game, it was you have to get through the divisional round. You have to beat Lamar Jackson, the future MVP, and the former two-time MVP. And you have to get over that hump with Josh Allen and Sean McDermott. But right when you get through there, what's waiting for you on the other side are the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, a team that's beat you in this round before and beaten you in the divisional round twice, one time in disastrous fashion with the 13 seconds game, and they've just had your number in the postseason. So I think a win in this game over the Kansas City Chiefs, at the very least, would signify progress for this fan base, for this franchise, and it would really wipe away the stain that's been left on Sean McDermott, that's been left there from the past few playoff failures on part of the Bills. I think it would also solidify Josh Allen as one of the greatest to ever do it. And that's just an appearance. If they're able to win the whole thing, there's no telling how much that could do for this team, for this coach, for these players, and this entire city and fan base all over the world. But first, we must get through this week. Excuse me. One moment. I don't know if I got the stamina for these solo podcasts. Maybe I got to take a breath midway through. I've been running out of air the past few, but as I mentioned before, I think it's this cold air as well. Heat still out in my apartment. I got the space heaters rocking. I think that's also drying the air out. So it's really been a tough go for me. And Deion Dawkins missed today's walkthrough due to illness for the Bills. I forgot to mention that off the top. And Josh Allen sounded a bit raspy during his media availability as well. So maybe some sickness going around the Bills locker room, hoping that they can get that sorted out as the week goes along. But like I said, before we get to the Chiefs matchup and briefly discuss it before heading on out of here, we'd like to first thank our sponsor, Forefathers Organics in Dansville. At Forefathers Organics, their mission is to liberate, educate, and innovate with the highest quality CBD and hemp-derived products for your mind, body, and soul so you can live happy and free. Visit them at 87 Franklin Street in Dansville, online at forefathersorganics.com, or call them at 585-335-2223 to learn more about the products they offer. All right, obvious storylines in this one. Bills getting over the hump. We mentioned it already. The Chiefs 3-0 against the Bills in recent playoff matchups. I believe 2-4 historically are the Bills against the Kansas City Chiefs in the postseason. It should be 2-1 in recent memory if it weren't for that 13-second debacle. But hey, I digress. A lot was accomplished last week against the Ravens, but it's really all about beating the Chiefs. It has been all season. It still is, no matter how you performed against Baltimore in your own house. Now you have to go on the road and do it against the defending Super Bowl champs in the Kansas City Chiefs. And this isn't the same Chiefs team since week 11. They've gotten some players back. They've added some players, and namely DeAndre Hopkins, the wide receiver. Hollywood Brown, the wide receiver, has made his way off the injured reserve. Travis Kelce looking like the old Travis Kelce against the Houston Texans, going for over 100 yards. So this team seems to be clicking on all cylinders at the right time, and the Bills could be running into a buzzsaw. But I'll tell you what, this is also a Chiefs team that has not blown many teams away this season. They've won a lot of one-score games, a lot of games that have come down to the wire, and eventually your luck is going to run out. And I'm not saying it's all luck with the Kansas City Chiefs. Sometimes luck is the residue of design, and that certainly is the case with Kansas City. But I think the Bills are equally clicking on all cylinders as the Chiefs, and they're going to run into a buzzsaw this week with Buffalo, and it's going to be good on good, and we're going to see which team comes away with this close game victory, and I'll give you my prediction later this week. I gave you my prediction a little bit too early last week, but I guess I'll hold that back for later this week, give you guys something to hold on to as we go throughout the course of this week. Once again, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning into this podcast. It's been interesting going solo over the past several weeks. I guess no better time to do it with the Bills on a Super Bowl run. There's plenty to talk about. Let's just hope we can keep it going for a few more weeks. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe this podcast on the Batavia Daily News YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts. All right. Defensively with the Chiefs, the pass rush last week against the Houston Texans, they sacked C.J. Stroud on 8 of 28 of his dropbacks. Edge rusher George Karlaftis with 3 sacks in that game. Chris Jones had one. I think it was 6 different players to come away with a sack in that game. No, that doesn't make sense. I think it was 5 or 6. Yeah, I'm not sure. 5 or 6. So a lot to pay attention to on this Chiefs defensive line. But throughout the course of this season, they were in the middle of the pack in terms of sacks. I haven't delved into the advanced numbers in terms of pressure rate, this, that, and the other thing. But this Chiefs pass rush can get it done at times, but the Bills offensive line is equally as talented, and I'm not so sure that the Chiefs will be able to offer anything as daunting as what the Bills faced the past two weeks, facing the number 1 and number 2 team in terms of sacks this season in the Broncos and the Ravens. On the back end, I mentioned Trent McDuffie. I mentioned Jalen Watson. I'm not so sure there's a whole lot to terrify you on the back end, but I think they're just overall solid, and I'm not so sure you're going to be able to really explode in the passing game. That being said, I think you need much more from Josh Allen in this game than you got from him in the last playoff game against the Baltimore Ravens. Under 200 yards, I don't think is going to get it done. I think you need him to find the end zone through the air as well. You need to take the top off the defense in some form or fashion. And the one way that the Bills could get it done is via tight end usage. The Chiefs allowing the most yardage on the season to tight ends. The Chiefs defense, that is, 31st in terms of success rate defending against the tight ends. So could be a big Dalton Kincaid game. We've been saying that for weeks. This could finally be the week. Also look for Dawson Knox. He also always seems to poke his head out when it matters most during the postseason as well. So that could be a way that you look to attack this secondary. Offensively for the Chiefs, I think it again comes down to takeaways for the Bills. You intercepted Patrick Mahomes twice during that first matchup in Week 11. You have to find your way to get your hands on the football. Mahomes is at another level come postseason time. He really protects the football. They played a clean game against the Texans this past week, and that was a big reason why Kansas City won. But maybe by mixing up defenses, you've heard a lot this season about Sean McDermott and Bobby Babich spinning the wheel in terms of using different defenses to confuse quarterbacks. Maybe you can do that against Patrick Mahomes. One thing I'm not so sure you'll be able to do that the Bills have done in recent weeks is use the blitz. Mahomes is historically one of the best quarterbacks in the league against the blitz. The Bills use the blitz quite a bit against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Might have to scale that back a little bit. And like I said, find other ways to disguise coverage and other things to confuse Mahomes and Andy Reid in this one. But before we get out of here, let's thank our sponsor once more, Forefathers Organics in Dansville.
Unlock the power of nature with Forefathers Organics, your premium CBD store. We offer the highest quality CBD and hemp products to liberate your mind, body, and soul, helping you live happy and free. Our mission is driven by excellence and transparency, using cutting-edge scientific methods to combat stress and target issues at their source. From potent ingestible CBD to soothing topicals, all our products are USDA certified organic. Discover all natural wellness from farm to table. Visit forefathersorganics.com for more information.
All right. One day closer to Bills Chiefs coming up on Sunday night, 6:30 p.m. It really should be an entertaining matchup between two AFC Titans. And I've seen the trials and tribulations firsthand for this team over the years, that being the Bills. And to see them come out the other end in a season that many doubted their ability to make the playoffs, much less reach the AFC Championship game, I can't say enough how impressive it's been to watch this team do what they've done. I've seen the heartbreak in the locker room after these tough losses. I've seen Josh Allen not be able to take his pads off and not be able to leave his locker for minutes on end following the final gun. I've seen players with tears in their eyes at the end of the season, knowing that they won't see some of their teammates again in a Bills uniform. And just driving to these games over the years and reflecting on what I've seen from my time as a fan, from the beginning of Sean McDermott's tenure to where the Bills find themselves now, it's just really come full circle, and I don't know how else to describe it. It's been impressive. It's been remarkable, and I really hope that we can keep it going here for a few more weeks, because I've been having a lot of fun. I'm sure the team is as well. I'm sure you, the fan base, I know for a fact, are having a lot of fun. So I'll be wheels down driving to Kansas City starting Friday. I'll make a pit stop in Indianapolis, finish my trip to the great Midwest, and I'm about to have a ball Saturday, Sunday, and hopefully leave there with a Bills victory over the rival Kansas City Chiefs. Thank you for joining me, and we will see you on Thursday after Bills practice from One Bills Drive.